All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We're going to go over a lot today, but of course we are also going to be covering a lot of the strange drills that are going on. We're also going to talk about what you guys have been talking about, what you guys have been telling us about the United States. A lot of really, really, really large drills that have been happening, and of course we're going to show you here in just a bit choppers in formation, and it's not just the regular kind of one or two going over. These are big drills that are happening. Now, what are these drills for? I guess that would be the big thing there. So stick around. We'll be talking about that in here in a second. Philippine military chief warns his forces will fight back if assaulted again in a disputed sea. Philippine forces will defend themselves, quote, with the same level of force if they come under assault again from China's Coast Guard in the disputed south. Now, we've talked about the Philippines and China. They've been getting in kind of headbutting matches. They've been spraying each other with their Coast Guard hoses to the point where they even broke in a couple windshields with it and hurt people. And, of course, they've had all sorts of interactions back and forth. If Philippines actually fights back, we're talking about starting a mini war. So this is big statements. We're going to talk about this and much, much more on today's episode of Marfoogle TV. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. I was on cloud nine. All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Now, if you have not been here before, remember the website has a full bibliography, so if at any point you're like, hey, where did they source this? Where did they get this from? You can actually go to our website, marfooglenews.com. Just look for today's thumbnail, and you will find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we have here today. Let's get back into it. Dex, do you want to give your opinion on of course, China and the Philippines, and now Manila is saying that they will do something back if this happens again?
Well, you were talking about the escalations, and one of the other escalations that happened was the axe wielding. Remember, they boarded one of the boats, and they were swinging swords at one another. And right. I think they've also been ramming boats, and now they even recently moved an aircraft carrier. China said they put an aircraft carrier in that area now. So it just seems like everything's lining up. Like you just keep watching each one of these steps, and we're getting right to the brink of actually seeing, some real kinetic conflict between them, not just squirt guns and axe throwing, so to speak.
And if that happens, the U.S. is meant to back up the Philippines. And as far as the other places that are, all at this kind of edge of a cliff, it's all happening at the same time. And on top of that, today, if you were watching in the last couple hours, there was unconfirmed reports of a certain JB, President JB, having an issue. We'll talk about that here in a minute as well. It's very back and forth right now because even though they have said that what they said happened, that is some sort of emergency happened, they then said, nope, it did not happen. But not everybody believes it given the circumstances of it. So we'll talk about that. They were worried that our current prez had some sort of issue. So we'll talk about what ended up happening with that and where it's kind of being left at for now. But before that, let's move on. Leaders of Russia and China meet at Central Asian Summit in a show of deepening cooperation. This is, again, China. Xi Jinping met up with Putin just a month ago. Now their leaders are meeting up. So whatever kind of agreement they came to behind closed doors, now their leaders are probably hashing it out. You have, of course, President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping met Wednesday for the second time in many months as they visited Kazakhstan for a session of the international group founded to counter Western alliances. Putin and Xi last got together in May when the Kremlin leader visited Beijing to underscore their close partnership that opposes the U.S.-led democratic order to seek and promote a more multipolar world. It says now they'll be holding meetings amid the annual session of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization taking place Wednesday and Thursday in the Kazakh capital of Astana. At the same time as crazy drills where Russia, right now, like as we speak, they're moving around camouflageable mobile nuclear missile launchers in the forest. I mean, like, just nuts. Of course, if you just came from the Marfoogle news video that we just put out, you would know that. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, I've talked about this many times, but especially when I talk about India. Nobody really talks about India. India, a population of 1.4 billion. I have had a side theory that they may end up, if everything goes down, they may end up on the other side. They have basically been kind of playing both sides. They are an ally of Russia. They've drilled with Russia, and of course, they've even done drills with Russia where China is present. So you've got Indian Navy and Chinese Navy sitting side by side each other. And people don't think that they're, all connected. India, of course, is also part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which they say is more financial. But all of these same groups, a lot of their head honchos meet all the time and have been for years. So is there room in these kind of meetings about finances and all of these cooperations? Does that leave doors open for them to forge alliances and squash previous beefs that they had, say, over border disputes? Well, it is odd. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, China and India both had soldiers on the border, the disputed border, after this Himalayan kind of punch-out, where on the Himalayan mountains there were at least 20 Indian soldiers that perished, and they said they literally perished by being thrown off of cliffs. China did not declare how many died in that battle, where soldiers met up with other soldiers. They ended up getting in a fist brawl, throwing people off the edge. After that, all of these mobile kind of structures that were set up as far as like checkpoints and outposts and all these things on both sides of the border all of a sudden disappeared. They pulled back both of their sides of troops. And ever since then, I've wondered, like, have they found some sort of agreement that they're not telling everybody? The big issue with them is a lot of it is that, of course, that dispute. Well, what if China ends up saying, hey, you have that land. We're going to take Taiwan and, all of Asia and something else, in return, when we win the war, you'll have a seat at the table. I've been wondering that for a long time. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization and all of these different connections, and then, of course, the BRICS that's now being formed. It's like it's definitely putting the U.S. and Western nations kind of on their defenses for sure. Now, this Asian summit. So what is being talked about there? That's my question. If you guys have input, put it down in the comments down below. And then Russian nuclear spacecraft would reportedly attack with massive energy wave. Dex, do you want to cover this?
Yeah, so look, this is not a news story because we've talked about this for a while, but what is so interesting, because one of the concepts that we have said that the sources and the government has not wanted to admit to was the use of EMP technology. And what was said here, what we found here, was there was actually a quote, and of course it's coming from CNN, where their sources, and it goes on and talks about it actually being an EMP, as opposed to them saying, oh, you don't have to worry about anything, it's just satellites that will go down. So for what it's worth, I think it's worth discussing that particular point, because now we're getting this from one of the networks that we all sort of know gets programmed a lot of information from or through and to from those who want them to put out information. So I question the fact that this is there. Not that it's legit, but that they are telling us that. But then the other thing that's important to think about is I'm not so sure that this is really Russia as much as it's going to be North Korea. And I say that because when you look at what we've talked about with North Korea in the past, with the satellites that they have floating around, and especially they've got two that are going right over the hot spot. When I say the hot spot, there's a sweet spot literally right over the Kansas area that when if it detonates a high altitude EMP at that location, it has the greatest reach of stretching across to the east and west coast of the US. Its effects, the strongest effect, dead center, the weakest effect to the east coast and west coast, but it's still enough to hit the entire continental US, most of Canada, and down into Mexico just a little bit. That sweet spot, North Korea has satellites that are orbiting directly over that, like twice a day or once every 2 days or something like that. And they've been considered dead satellites. They're not, they don't communicate. Once they were put up, they went silent. So they're either lying in dormancy or they're just, failed satellites, and they just so happen to be in the right location. But look, every time Putin and Kim have gotten together over the last 2 years, every time they meet, they talk, they do something, Kim is introducing new technology, hypersonics, new nukes, new etc. So to the extent that a lot of people think that they are going to be the puppet player or the puppet of either Xi or even Putin or both together, I sort of think I might want to give more consideration into what they may be launching, if they've already launched it, or what they may be launching in the future, especially after they've met with Putin just recently, where he brought him in, and it wasn't just about sending kids to summer camp in North Korea, as we reported. So anyway, interesting point. This came up that it was actually those words were used about EMP when the entire time they've been trying to sort of brush that under the rug. So what do you think, Adam?
Also remember that as far as back in the day, this is before I was even covering anything. I was watching this whole, everything that was covered about North Korea on the news. Do you remember when they were testing all of these nuclear missiles, and they said that there were earthquakes, right? They were showing on the news, they said it only caused a 2.2 earthquake, and everybody was laughing at North Korea saying, oh, obviously it was a failed missile launch, or it was a failed explosion, because this is very, very low yield. And everybody was saying, yeah, they don't really have the ability to do nukes, because look at the yield. I mean, these are tiny. And years later, now the EMP Resilience Committee, or this, what was Peter Pry on? They end up finding out all of this years later that those were not tests to make a huge, gigantic nuclear bomb. Those were tests to make a very specific low-yield bomb for a super EMP weapon. And now they have it. And, of course, back then they asked and said, well, where did you get this? Russia ended up saying, well, they either got it from us or they stole it from us. We don't know which, right? They basically gave it to them. So when they were being laughed at by the whole world, they were actually making something that was very specific for an even worse purpose than a large nuke. If they did a single nuke in the middle of the country, that would actually be better if they did that rather than an EMP in the middle of our country. They say 90% of us would perish in the United States in the first year if we get hit by an EMP. So you can imagine, if you lose one city, even if it's a big nuke, we're talking about a city or even half a state compared to 90% of us. So it's crazy that an EMP would be that much worse when it doesn't take a single life in the first place. So we've been talking about this for years. This is what we really think is most likely. And there are many people that agree with us and many experts, but who listens to the experts anymore anyways? And I'm being facetious, but at the same time, a lot of people don't now. A lot of the institutions are kind of being, nobody really respects them anymore. But I do respect people like Peter Pry that was trying to get the words out before he died, and some of the people that have taken after him. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and let's connect all the dots back together again and think about what we just talked about with Russia and the mobile nukes. And if you didn't catch that, go check it out. It's on Marfoogle News on our sister channel. Short vid. A lot of you came over from that, and that's great. But those being moved to the front line and under a drill, under a test, just like they did a month ago where they did, or a few weeks ago where they did their other nuclear drill, moving the larger tacticals to the front line. That's happening at the same time that you've got China preparing and testing against taking out F-22s and F-35s in the desert on bases, not on planes or not on aircraft carriers. They've already tested firing and taking out aircraft carriers. Them having a low orbit yielding jamming device that with just 3 of their 528 satellites could potentially take out the early warning systems of our Navy or our carrier strike group, and with only 28 could cover the entire globe, and they would be able to launch hypersonics and hit our ships without them being able to detect it and see it coming. If you think about the Philippines, North Korea, South Korea, China trying to grab Taiwan, the ability to escalate overnight in Europe with a tactical, then you could easily sort of shock and awe the U.S., not only in the sense that we have to have dividing our forces in all these different directions for defense, but then something as simple as an EMP could go off and they instantly have a massive advantage against us if they're able to pull that off without us detecting it. And Adam, remember FOBs? You want to explain that?
Yeah, so fractional orbital bombardment system is essentially something that already, without anything getting knocked out or early warning systems getting knocked out, it would essentially go around the world and come up from an area that's not watched and hit us in that way. Well, China actually tested an entire system. We ended up watching, the world ended up saw that China launched this hypersonic object into space that then launched another hypersonic object from it, and then it circled around the world and it hit a target, and we didn't really know about it. And I'm pretty sure that they said we did not know about it until after it hit its target. And not only did it hit its target or close to its target, it hit so close to its target that it would have been considered a success. Within, I don't know if it was 20 miles or 20, I think it was within 20 miles of its target, which, considering it was launched around the world at hypersonic speeds, came up from underneath and smacked into it. That's pretty freaky. So China, it's very clear looking at all of the stuff that they've made, it's for a very specific reason. Dex, did that do good enough for?
Oh yeah, absolutely spot on. I mean, it looks like an orbital launch. It's the whole point. It's a space launch. You're just going to think, it's another satellite. There goes another satellite, and then before you know it, there it is, and it's too late to react. And then the other one, Adam, is the balloons. We've talked about this. I mean, we actually saw one come through at like, what was it, 45? No, it was 60,000 feet. Well, that's high enough, and the balloons can actually go higher. And that's all you need is 60,000, 80,000, even 100,000 feet, which you can reach with a balloon. That is still high enough to actually create an EMP blast. So that's another thing. And I think somebody in chat even said, don't forget the balloons too. I'm sorry if I missed your name, but thanks, Fugel fam, for participating and bringing the conversation along.
And they could have dummy balloons, right? If they sent thousands of these things over, it's a pain in the butt just to take one down. And not to mention, if it's done when we're not expecting it, they're thinking about how all of this stuff would come crashing down. They said that the reason they let it go all the way across our country and basically over every single base, it literally had a path over our bases, is because they didn't want it to come down and harm anybody. Even though there was a chunk of it, they knew it existed. They were watching it since the first moment it hit our shores, which we found out later. There was a part where it went over the Rust Belt where it totally could have just landed on an open piece of field, but they didn't do it then. So if that is the fact, or maybe they are that incompetent where they just couldn't take it down, or they couldn't figure it out for a minute, or they didn't have the resources to take it down right away, they didn't have the jet that took it down available or something, I don't know. I wouldn't think that would be it. But as far as you send 1,000 of those over, you have dummy versions that look like the same thing, but you have us scrambling to take them out. You have a couple redundancy. You have these things basically knock out the early warning systems, and then you launch And look at Russia. Russia's practicing launching missiles off our west coast. What if they all coordinate? And they could launch traditional missiles and take out strategic targets, then EMP us. And then you've got them taking Taiwan. You've got Iran and Israel. You've got Russia and Ukraine. You've got Venezuela and Guyana. You've got Cuba activated. You've got all of these things that happen at the same time. That sounds so over the top that people wouldn't believe it. But that's what the framework looks like they're building. Why did the balloon go in its specific route over the bases? Was that a practice run? That's the questions we're asking. And I don't think they're crazy questions. And the longer you wait, the less that the crazy questions are crazy at all. In fact, you wait a couple years, they're going to be going over how this happened, not how it might happen, right? So I hope people are paying attention. This is what we really think is going to go on. This is what we are preparing for with our neighbors and friends. 4th of July was really great. We didn't do anything. I will just a side rant about 4th of July. My state is one of many that is moving away from fireworks that go up and go boom. They've outlawed anything that fires up in the sky and goes boom, including little things. Like I'm pretty sure you can't even do the bees that spin. You can't do all the little... There's a lot of stuff you can't do. You can't do mortars for sure, right? $1,000 fine, and you can't find them unless you go to the reservation to get them. Well, they also stopped all of the celebrations. Last year, we did not have a celebration in several of the cities here in Washington, and they're starting to do the celebrations on days that don't even matter. Like, and by say don't matter, it's not the 4th of July. It's not Independence Day. It's almost like they are trying to, anything that is patriotic, that is about America, that's like a day devoted to us, it's like they want you to, who cares about 4th of July? We're going to have our fireworks on Saturday on a day that that has no connection to the history. It's so crazy to me. And then if you read articles, you can look this up. There's an article called The World is Moving Away from Fireworks because it causes, it's bad for PTSD victims. It's bad for the pollution, and it's all this. But all of these places that are banning those kind of fireworks and not doing these celebrations, doing these drone things, they're also selling fireworks that are the same exact thing. They're ground fountains, which again is the only thing you can get now. Fountains of everything is just a fountain. So instead of shooting it up past the tree line, now you've got people lighting things that it's just 30 feet of sparks on ground level. Doesn't make too much sense in my head, but again, maybe I'm a moron, right? But as far as all of the 4th of July, I hope you guys had a really, really wonderful 4th of July, but just pay attention to what's happening. It seems like everything that is like American or patriotic, it seems like they are just trying to exit out. They're trying to they're taking down statues, they're taking down this, they're taking down that. They don't want you celebrating on the actual holiday because they want people to forget about it. They want people to forget that original Constitution. That's just my opinion, but what's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Either way, the drone shows are cool. We saw a cool drone show in person, and it is cool, but it's not fireworks. And I'm sorry, I'm calling BS on the whole, this is because it's bad for this or bad for that. Just like somebody pointed out last week on a video, somebody pointed out that they don't have plastic bags at the store for the environment, but yet went through the entire cart of plastic packaging. This is in plastic, that's in plastic, that's in plastic. By the time you leave, your entire cart is full of plastic. But yet they don't have a plastic bag to put it in at the very end. It seems like they want to say they care. They want to pretend they care, but they don't. All right, side rant done for the day. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. We've been telling you guys about this. This is our recommendation. We not only think that this could save lives, but this will also get people home to their families. As far as an EMP Shield, what it does is it grounds the signal of an electromagnetic pulse or a Carrington level event from the sun. This is important. It does both before it's able to fry your device. You can hook this into your car in about 10 minutes. There's 3 wires, green to green on your battery. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and then green to ground or a part of your chassis. Then you're done. Then your car is going to ground that signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it fries it. So you will be able to get home. Get home to bug in or get out to bug out. Go to marfugglenews.com/EMP. Again, that's marfugglenews.com/EMP. Dex, go ahead.
And real quick, they extended the 4th of July sale so that you guys can know about it since we weren't on for 4th of July. So if you want it, remember, our stuff stacks on it. So if you use our code on top of their discount, which not many people get, it's a special thing for the Foogle fam.
Yeah, so you'll get the 4th of July sale and $50 off. It's definitely a great time to go grab one. They also make it for gas generators. They make it for the solar generator in the case of the Flex 1500 and the Flex Tactical from Energy. And they make one for your home that, again, will protect everything within a certain amount of feet. Basically, most homes will be covered. Is it 150 or 250 linear feet? I think it's 250 linear.
It's 250 linear feet from the breaker box, which is every home, because when it goes beyond that, usually you have a second breaker box and then you put one in there.
Yeah, so most of the things that are plugged in are going to be protected. People go, well, what if the power doesn't come back on? That's why it's important to have generators. And if the power does come back on, all of your stuff won't be fried. Therefore, if it is months or a year, you will have appliances when there is no supply chain and no stores to go buy other appliances or more appliances if the power does get restored. If it doesn't, you have generators for that purpose, and that's why it is definitely a good pair. All right, and then let's talk about Xi Jinping warns the SCO to resist external interference in latest veiled swipe at the U.S. Dex, go ahead.
So, yeah, he is basically trying to, I would say, poke, say, somebody like Vietnam. Or some of the other countries that like to play both sides, and anybody that's in, say, the SCO or might even be in BRICS and say, hey, look out for the U.S. They're in there trying to woo you, and you don't need to be part of them. You should be part of us, which is exactly the opposite of what the U.S. says. The U.S. is running around saying, hey, watch out for the bad deal you're making with China. They're going to, tell you, give you the world, and then you won't be able to pay for it, and then they're going to take over, and now they own your ports and your infrastructure, your security, or whatever it is they may be, vying to get. So it is absolutely a power play on their part. They're trying to look very much like a strong, powerful country and a leader of, this opposite pole, if you want to call it that. They call it a multipolar world. They're trying to look like the opposite pole of and being as strong as the U.S. So that's what they're laying down. It was specifically at the event that was in Kazakhstan where he met with Putin. This was coming out of it. At the end of the 2-day meeting, his words were very strong towards all of the members there and anyone else that was listening to be wary of having any relation or creating favors with the U.S. That external interference, you need to resist it.
Basically, if somebody tries to get you to not join or to screw us over, resist that urge, right? Because in the end, we'll be number one. I'm sure that's what they're telling them. Jared West, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate that. Jerry Shirts 99, thank you. Tom Cogswell, thank you, and thank you for your support this week. Wings and Wags Patriot, and then a big shout out to Lisa Douglas. Thank you for this week's support. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for stopping in. And then Ray Day, Enigma, and Carlton Sutton. Thank you, and thank you. Let's see here. And let's go over to the chat real quick and say hi. What's going on, Redonk? We've got Jammer 1, Taylor 1900. What is happening? Space Monkey, Becky D. We've got, of course, Scratch, J Pass. Faith Parent, nice to see you here. We've got Dragon Slayer. Doom Slayer says, okay, what is happening? And then See Her Think. Hey, what's going on? Bobby Sue, Skyson High. Judy Bailey from Vegas. Nice to see you. We've got a lot of great people. Charlemagne from Missouri. What is happening? Represent. Baron Saturday. Trevor. What is going on? Kenneth Risner. Williard, Ohio. Got the OHIO in the house. Adam from Jahai, California. Hey, nice to see you. Hooterville, Iowa. Hooterville. Lisa, I did not. I just heard somebody else was from Hooterville, and I thought they were joking. I know there's a lot of really funny names in the United States, but there was another one I heard the other day too. I can't remember it. There are so many unique names in the United States. And then Calgary, what is going on? Lori Smith, Drummondson Live, nice to see you. Space Monkey, the end is near, is Texas strong. All right, hey, and again, thank you for being here, Scratch, and Seeking Truth, thank you. All right, and let's go back to the map. We've got one dies after an explosion at a General Dynamics plant in Arkansas. So General Dynamics obviously makes a lot of military stuff. So with this, I saw a couple comments that thought maybe this was an accidental detonation, but they say that one person has died after an explosion at a defense weapons plant in Arkansas. The facility's operators confirmed Friday. The explosion happened Wednesday at the General Dynamics Ordnance and Tactical Systems plant in Camden, about 86 miles south of Little Rock. It says 2 other people were injured in the blast. One person died, initially was reported as missing. So it makes you wonder, like, was it so bad he just kind of disappeared? They literally said they just thought he was missing because maybe there wasn't that much of them left. I know that's pretty dark, but this is really sad. It says, we are deeply saddened to share the news that one of our employees has tragically lost their life in an incident at the Camden facility. Our deepest sympathies and condolences go out to the family, friends, and colleagues of the deceased and injured individuals during this incredibly difficult time. So, another thing, General Dynamics is one of the 5 companies that's up there with Boeing. Are we going to start seeing accidents with all of these companies? Dex, there's Boeing, there's Northrop Grumman, there's General Dynamics, Raytheon.
Lockheed. And Lockheed.
And Lockheed. Yeah, so GD, Lockheed, Raytheon, Boeing, and I'm forgetting the 5th one again. But we named all of them. Yeah, so those 5 companies. Boeing, you are obviously familiar with, has been going through absolute hell because they are making crappy everything, or at least that's what they're telling us. I wonder if this is going to go down the line and all of the big military industrial complex are somehow going to get, crappy things blowing up in their factories, panels falling off, missiles that go off at the wrong time, tracking that, takes them into other countries. Like, watch, we'll find out later that, it was a General Dynamic missile or something that veered off into Poland. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, this place, they say it supported the military, had 880,000 square feet, supported the military programs for the Hellfire, the Javelin, and also various other mortar-style munitions, according to the company website. But get this, when it initially happened, the company said that they, quote, had an incident involving pyrotechnics. But then they had to later confirm it was an explosion. And obviously it's not pyrotechnics in that. And I can only imagine, we don't know. They're launching an investigation. Obviously this is going to be, one of those things that if we get anything, it will be very censored as far as what the DoD wants out. But certainly it's not like they're going to come out day 1 or even week 1 and tell us anything, because this is such a secret type operation, at least in the sense that, it involves the DoD and military equipment for the DoD.
Yeah, so did one of the missiles, did something blow up? Like, what actually happened? I guess we'll find out. Or we won't. And then we've seen a lot of strange drills. So you, the Foogle fam, have been contacting us over the last week, and everybody is saying that there are massive, massive drills going on. Now, half of these are not being talked about. Now, there are a lot of formation drills going on, which part of this would be normal. Some, outside of some bases, you see these kind of things when they're doing trainings. But there's just been an unusual amount of just these massive, massive drills. Now, of course, they're actually warning people. It says the skies over the city's lakefront in Chicago and downtown may be a little more crowded and noisier over the next couple days. An alert from Chicago's Office of Emergency Management and Communications said military helicopters will be flying in formation as part of practice for upcoming flyovers that will take place during events today and this weekend. So over the 4th of July, of course, they're going to be showing off, right? The OEMC didn't specify any other details about the flights, but the alert accompanied reminders about fireworks, and it says that they're banned statewide in the city, which is really crappy because I was just talking about this. Washington and, of course, Chicago is too, right? They're starting to ban it, and this all happened during CV. But as far as these drills, there's something buried under the regular kind of 4th of July and then the Memorial Day. Obviously, if you see the Blue Angels, nobody's going to freak out. They're like, oh, it's Blue Angels. They're flying for the festival or whatever. But outside of this, all over the country, there have been sightings of these massive formations. And we're talking about World War III size formations going. And a lot of them have their transponders off. Now, if they have their transponders on, obviously anybody that follows all of the air traffic, they see this kind of stuff. And in fact, there's whole channels devoted to covering any kind of weird events like this. They're a whole community in itself of aviation fans and also radar watchers that are basically the watchmen of that zone, right? Well, the thing that gets me is these massive formation drills that are happening and their transponders are off. It's like with everything else that's going on right now, we just saw in the last couple of weeks, there's been a ton of these. And everybody just chalks it up to, oh, it's just practice for holiday shows or this or that. But then half of them, you end up having the holiday events and there is no special show-off event so use this as an example. They may be doing something where they show these off. But a lot of them, they'll say, oh, it's around this time period. But there is no public show with a formation going by to show off to the public. There is no purpose for it other than the actual drill itself. So they're it seems like they've been lining these up around them. And then when you get to the actual holiday, where can I see it being done? Oh, it doesn't exist. So Foogle fam let me look at my map here. So we have Oregon State. I know we have Arizona, Oklahoma, Montana, Indiana, Ohio. If any of the Ohio people that sent me that message, if you're in the chat, pop in.
Wasn't that Canadians too that were in Ohio?
Yep. And then in Ohio,
Cleveland,
there was formations of Canadian Royal Air Force, and everybody said, "Oh no, that's a Spider-Man movie." First of all, it wasn't even a Spider-Man movie. That's what was funny. Everybody was like, giving a scrap like, you're such an idiot. A Spider-Man movie was happening. I saw that a Superman movie was being made in Ohio. So it wasn't even Spider-Man. And there was people that were like super confident, said fake news. We got the quotes from the Canadian Defense Ministry. They were helping out with U.S. drills, not a movie. So they were actually doing a drill and they were practicing on urban environments. I have videotaped these drills and I've videotaped and shown that half of them are not having their transponders on. So you're not seeing it on the air traffic control. I've also proven things where people said, oh, what you said, happened didn't happen. The Foogle fam and the watchman of the radar actually immediately helped me prove it and showed that all of these drills were being done. So what do you think they're preparing for? You've got Foogle family with military in the family, literally young men coming home to their families to visit and saying, we are going to war. We've been told we are going to war. It is no longer a secret. So there are military men and women in the military right now that are being told, yeah, we're going to war. These same people, a lot of them are the same people that said a year and a half ago, oh, no, yeah, I don't think so. I hope not, but probably not. These same people are coming home to their families and saying, they just told us we're going to war. So there is obviously a message that is going out, and it's not a secret. They're telling regular military this. It's a matter of when. And that's the thing. I think that if you look at the world picture right now, you really got to zoom out and see that there are strings connected to all of these events. They're not separate solo events. Dex, has it not been crazy how in this last year, how not only the drills, but all of the sightings and all of these things are just kicking up like crazy?
We're obviously preparing for something. It's not like peacetime's upon us and we're saving fuel. We're burning the gas because they're getting ready. We've got practice, and don't get me wrong. I know the military practices, they do this stuff all the time, but it seems like they're doing a lot more of it. From all the reports we're getting, from all the sightings we're getting, from everything that's happening, it just seems and feels like, and it's obvious. We've got all the tension in the Pacific. We've got a conflict happening right now in Europe, and we also have things escalating to the brink of all-out, war in the Middle East. So, we're bound to be dragged into one, if not all three areas, if not more, real soon.
So as my friend Jacob would say, buckle up. Kelly Josie says, much love, Foogle fam, Adam and Dex, you guys totally rock. Thank you for all you do. I had a heart attack. Can you believe it? I can't. Kelly Josie, I'm pretty sure you're not that old. You shouldn't be having heart attacks. It's crazy. That's the third time this week I've heard somebody say that they had a heart attack. I guess I'm happy though that you're here to say it. Thank you, Kelly Josie, and I am praying for you, and I pray that you never have another one. I hope that you can figure out how to stop that from happening again. I'm so sorry, Kelly Josie. That is so terrifying. And then somebody in our very close family had something they thought was a stroke, but they couldn't name it. This is the craziest thing. Ever since CV, when we all got put down, we saw this family member beforehand, spoke clearly, was in the late 70s at that time, spoke clearly, healthy, drove on their own. She went everywhere on her own. She drove herself. The first 3 months that we were all locked down, and it was like the really big lockdown where you couldn't go anywhere and you had to have a pass and all of that stuff. After that, we visited when we could, and we all had to wear coverings and stuff. It was like night and day. All of a sudden, she couldn't speak clearly. She was apparently 3 doctors came in and convinced her to do something that everyone did not want, and then pressured the mother to do it as well. I was pretty disgusted by that. Ever since, there's been issue after issue after issue, and just in this last week, they cannot explain it. Cannot explain what is going on. This is what they keep coming back with from the hospitals and from all these tests. Now she has a pacemaker now, and they can't do MRIs with the pacemaker, so they had to do a special procedure to turn off the pacemaker to check all of this stuff, and they still can't find any reason why she can't talk properly, and they can't find any reason why she just so fast went into a dementia status. And you guys, you can save it. I totally get it, but I hope that. And then I talked to my neighbor at 4th of July. The main point yesterday, same thing with their mom, and I'm just like, America, man. The world's got problems right now. But yeah, that no explanation. I think I have one. Neil Nelson, I'm out of the hospital, no longer in dialysis, complete renal failure. Resuming. Oh man, Neil. Well, you also have been here for a very long time, Neil. I'm praying for you as well. I'm sorry, everybody is. You guys know I was in the hospital for a day and a half. Yeah, I'm sorry. Everybody's having such a hard time right now. I pray it gets better. And then Stephen McMahon says, I saw these Huey helicopters over Chicago while at work last night. They are military helos. Hueys are troop carriers. So yeah, the Hueys are the Vietnam era bigger ones. They're made for dropping people off. The ones that were here, they were doing drop-offs and pickups on rooftops. And then they were flying through skyscrapers at lower than the skyscraper. It was a cool thing to see. I got video of it. An apartment building and a skyscraper right next to each other, and it went sideways through it. I mean, I think that if it was a couple feet over, it would have been able to chop whoever was sitting on their 3rd-story deck. Like, it was insane. I put I put some of that video together for that video I talked about those drills. Gosh, and it's gotten even crazier since then. If you see sightings, remember that there is marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. All you have to do is go to our page, marfooglenews.com, click and highlight this tab right here, play my video. Very easy. Click on it. Then you can put whatever kind of thing it is. Put other, put military sighting, put this, strange skies, odd behavior, or sightings, military police. Put it right there and then upload the video and we will show it on the Foogle Fam. Okay, and then Dex, let's go over CISA and what they're saying.
All right, so get this. They just workshopped 3 different scenarios. So there is this scenario workshop, and this is the website. You guys can go to the website to see what it was. It's linked on our website. So if you're looking for it, just go to the show notes, just like everything. And then on there, it says 3 scenarios. And if you click on that, it'll open a PDF, and it talks about these specific scenarios they were training for in this workshop. And this workshop is all about creating these hypothetical narratives, as they call them, to help their participants explore the ways in which operating environment for critical infrastructure for both the owners and the operators may actually evolve and what they should be preparing for. So these scenarios, the first one was water woes. So different regions of the U.S. increasingly finding themselves threatened by either too much or too little water. So either extreme droughts or extreme flooding. And that was the scenario they were talked about, being inundated with floods and hurricanes, or parched by drought and wildfires. And they talked about, the growing effects of the change and water infrastructure and the breakdowns with the public and how they may or may not trust that stuff. So that was one scenario. The second scenario, a great power disruption. So they talk about going through the whole idea about having not enough power, driven from different scenarios about it, but efforts to control the key technologies such as semiconductor leads to partial decoupling internationally, onshoring production of critical sectors, and tensions over supply chains that we might actually have considerable gains onshoring manufacturing, but the future in a scenario where we don't have power or we have a power problem because of this dependency that's offshore. And what does it mean if we have a massive power disruption? So they're talking specifically about how that could affect whether it be your infrastructure, if say you're a water infrastructure, or you're a power company, or you're a gas infrastructure, whatever infrastructure organization you are, what are you going to deal with great power disruption? And then the third one was another scenario that they talked specifically about a city that said it had less than 6 months of water supply remaining, and it must make drastic cuts and harshly impact the citizens and business. And they talk about what would happen in that, as they call it, day 0. So look, this is the kind of stuff they're preparing for. So keep that in mind when you think about what we need to be preparing for individually, if this is what our government is having our infrastructures prepare for.
And mind you, all of the recent attacks, all of the very targeted eras that got hacked during solar winds were infrastructure. Were HR departments that could literally print out a fob or program a fob to get into any place in the building to create fake employee badges and things like this. That was the area that was entered on top of areas like Black Start. Black Start is our plan. Say EMP knocks out our power across the country. Black Start is the plan to put it back together again. They looked at that specifically. Now, if they could go at step 1, step 2, step 3 and sabotage it right as they do it, it's like Black Start, as we do that plan, all of a sudden, we're going to hit all of these roadblocks. So say if step 1 is we need to have this company, transfer us their backup transformers, they could then go sabotage that company and the backup transformers. That kind of thing. Like basically, if you know how they're about to fix it, you can go to the places where they're about to fix it with and then sabotage them as well. So they access these very specific things. They keep talking about our water. Now, they've also been talking about all of these hacks into our water infrastructure. In this first one, they talk about the distrust in public services and the public distrust. It's already there, right? People don't trust drinking it, right? And then in day 0, I thought it was interesting. What was the part in that one? All 3 of these is in 2029 and 2030. So they just keep looking forward. Only a few years. It's not put in the year 2040 or 2050, 2060. It's being set just a couple years down the road for all of these disasters. And this is something I've pointed out on all of these. They all point out before 2030. It was 2025 through 2030 is when all of this stuff is supposedly going down, right? And that's where all of the drills place it. I don't know. It's creepy if you ask me. Yeah, very creepy. And Neil Nelson says, Adam, have they checked for polymyalgia rheumatic? They've checked for everything. I don't know if they've checked for that, but I will mention it. That causes decreased blood flow to the brain and brainstorm, therefore slurred speech, dementia symptoms. So I'm actually pretty sure they did. Because I remembered the poly word. But it could have been something. Poly, I'm sure, is in a lot of different ailments, right? Now, thank you again, Neil. I appreciate that. Thanks for looking out. And the U.S. is upgrading its fighter fleets in Japan, boosting its Pacific air power with its newest jets. So they're loading up Japan with basically the top tech. It says U.S. air power in the Pacific is about to get a major upgrade as the Pentagon announced it will be replacing aircraft at some of its bases in Japan with dozens of F-35 stealth fighters. The move comes as the U.S. looks at the lethality and survivability of its Pacific aircraft and airfields in a potential conflict with China. The U.S. Department of Defense released information on its new modernization plan for aircraft based in Japan on Wednesday, noting that the effort will take several years and reflect over $10 billion of capability investments to enhance the U.S.-Japan alliance. It will bolster regional deterrence and strengthen peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. It's funny that every new weapon that could essentially take them more and more lives, the bigger the weapon, the more peace it brings, right? But it's kind of true. But yeah, as part of the plan, the Air Force will replace almost 50 F-15Cs and F-15Ds at Kadena with 36 F-15EX Eagle II strike fighters. And of course, at the air station at Kawuni, the number of F-35B jump jets capable of takeoffs from short runways and amphibious assault ships will be, quote, modified to further support U.S. modernization plan. So Dex, it almost seems like they're preparing for a certain kind of event, right? They're emphasizing that they want to be able to, short takeoffs, quick response times, it seems.
Exactly. And couple this with the fact, and if you guys didn't see it, there's a short we did over on Marfoogle News about China preparing and actually going after these F-35s as part of their test on land. So this was another location that is reachable. Japan would be an area. There's plenty of those islands that we may be staging from, not only with Japan's F-35s, but with U.S. F-35s. So that is something else to keep in mind. So as much as we're moving them there, they know they're coming, and they've been preparing for both the F-35 and the F-22 on land, not in air, on land.
And the only way to get them on land is if it's unexpected and it's a surprise attack. And the detection doesn't work. Going back to what we said about the technology they say they have or that they're working on that is able to be a low Earth satellite that can knock out or jam all of the early warning systems globally. So, yeah. Keep your eyes peeled. Check out Energy if you haven't already. This is our recommendation for a solar generator. If you don't know anything about solar generation, it's extremely easy. I've had several emails that essentially go along the lines of like, I don't think I could work this thing. Anybody could work this thing. This has one button, on and off, and then a second button that essentially turns on that row of plugins. So you can actually have all of these ports on default, and then you push that button and it turns on all these plugins. That way you can actually have it on the whole time, and then if you want to turn off power, you can just turn off power at the actual plugin line. Now, this thing is absolutely a beast. It's modular. It is expandable. So as far as easiness, you unclip the 1,500-pound latch system. You just click, 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 click on both sides, lift it off, and then pop a brick in like Lego that either changes it or adds a feature, or you can add more batteries, up to 96. And I believe you can do stacks of 5, but actually that was with the Flex 1500. You might be able to even do more with technically with that 1,500-pound latch system. But then you can have them in stacks. You could have a whole wall of batteries if you want. Or you can just take it with one battery, put it on the back of your truck, take it to a work site, take it camping and power the whole campsite, take it tailgating, power a TV and an Xbox, whatever. It's up to you. But in a disaster, this is going to be able to power the essentials, and that is awesome. Not only that, you won't have to have a barrel of gasoline sitting around, because all you need is some solar panels. You put those solar panels out, and again, it's just like Christmas lights. You plug the solar panel in. It's one cord that plugs into the side. And then if you want 2 panels, you daisy chain it. You plug the second panel into the first panel into the generator. That's how easy it is. It's silent, so you're not going to be hearing it from 3 blocks away, so nobody is going to know you have it. And it stores it. So if you have good days, or as far as great sunny days, you save that power for when you need it. Then you have a storm coming in. Your power goes out. Boom. You've got power saved, and it's ready for you at a moment's notice. So it is a very cool system, and it is one of the best. That's why the U.S. Army has picked this for the STTR Phase 2 contract. This is Army strong, and they mean it. They just got a huge contract with them for this exact generator. It's got built-in heaters, steel reinforced frame, the 1,500-pound latches. This thing's got it all. So if you want the best, this is the best, and it is not the downside. You have to wait. Again, the wait could be anywhere from 3 to 7 months, depending on when you order it. So I'd get your name on one right away. As far as, yes, there are ones out there. Once you look into it, you're probably going to say, oh, well, what about this one? It does the same thing. It gets here Monday. I will highly recommend you don't do that. Go look at the company that is actually making one of the closest competitors, which I don't think there's many. You will see that it's literally connected directly to a country that you're probably trying to prepare from or prepare against. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind that China runs and controls a giant chunk of lithium. So that is why there's a wait for American brands like this, and there's no wait for those. So go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. At least that's my theory. And make sure to use the code Marfoogle. You'll get a giant discount, and you'll help us, and you'll be backing yourself up. And you can use this for literally anything. It doesn't have to be a disaster. All right. I would get it when we're not in a disaster, because you're not going to be able to get any of them, including the one that comes on Monday, if there is a big disaster. That's why you got to get it now. All right. And Dex, let's talk about China is making and testing lethal attack drones for Russia.
Well, if this turns out to be provable in a significant way, I think the U.S. is sort of positioning this to be an opportunity to actually pit the positioning that China has in the UKR event, because they have been China has sort of been playing. We're trying to stay neutral on it. We're not going to pick a side, even though they're sides with Russia, but they've not been one to say supply weapons or do anything like that, because they fear getting sanctioned. And now what has happened, and there was discussions of it in the past of them potentially doing this, but they're taking those Iranian-made Shahed drone, I think is how you pronounce it, but they're the cheap, easy to make and reproduce drones that Russia had been getting from Iran in a large quantity, and now building and manufacturing those in combination with both Russia and China. So they're going to make their own knockoff of it, so to speak, but basically taking the blueprint from that and building it. And if they do that and support Russia with it and they're used in the conflict, I think that's going to instantly change the game as far as what the U.S. is, should be doing when it comes to the way they've positioned the sanctions to anybody that has participated with Russia in supplying weapons. And that will escalate significantly the U.S. and China's conflict. And I think that's what we got to pay attention to. It's an interesting story that they're, making this stuff and they're sending it over. That's how the U.S. and U.S. officials say they have inside information that's sort of suggesting that that's what's happening. But if it gets proven, or even if it doesn't get proven, and the U.S. just wants to run with that story, then that gives an opportunity for us to do something with a heavy hand towards China from a sanctions point of view, which they saw what the effects were to Russia, and it was pretty devastating to Russia if it weren't for China there to bail them out. Okay. And that's why we also say China has all the leverage right now with Russia, because Russia can't really do much without China, because China's got all the money and can buy all the oil and goods off of Russia to keep them afloat. So interesting points to be made here. Again, the information's coming from, U.S. intelligence and other intelligence saying that they're making this. So we'll have to see if it actually plays out.
But it's not a surprise to anybody that's been following it. Everybody believes that is exactly what's going on. And then Russian submarines fought a torpedo duel in waters surrounded by NATO allies. So when we talked about this the other day, if you look at the map, let's see here. Let's go over the map here. This is the Baltic Sea, but Russian submarines actually just popped up. Wait, was it right here? No, it was...
It was the Irish Sea.
Yeah, I was trying to go over.
In between UK and Ireland, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I was trying to swoop over here. So right here, by the Isle of Man. So this is where they just popped up out of nowhere. Now they're covering that they fought a torpedo duel in waters surrounded by NATO allies. 2 Russian submarines recently fought a torpedo duel conducting training that involved detecting enemies, evading attacks, and working combat maneuvers. The exercise took place in the Baltic Sea, waters sometimes referred to as NATO Lake due to its waters being surrounded by NATO allies since Sweden and Finland ascended into the alliance. The Kilo-class diesel electric submarines Novorossiysk and Dmitrov held a training duel involving torpedo fire, according to a Russian state media TASS. And it says, in the Baltic Sea, following the completion of the anti-submarine war maneuvers, the submarine Novorossiysk engaged the Dmitrov with a training torpedo without a warhead, the Navy said. Now, have any of you in the Navy, in the audience, what is the deal with the training torpedo? Dex, can you look up what a training torpedo is? Does it have a rubber head on it or something so it just bounces off? It must shoot out and look like a real torpedo, right? Imagine being NATO set up and having this go on like right underneath you, or seeing some sort of torpedo go by. That's kind of freaky.
Yeah, it's just unarmed. Or not unarmed. It just doesn't have any munitions in it. It's just a same torpedo they would launch, but same guidance systems. Everything's in it except for the.
Well, are they practicing missing? You know what I mean? Like, even if can you hit a submarine with the regular part of the torpedo? I'm assuming not, right? Or does it?
I don't know if it actually physically hits it or if it just gets in the vicinity that is considered a hit.
Huh. I guess they probably have some zone set up in the water that is they pretend that's the submarine. Or they drop something in the water that they hit something. Because otherwise, they've got to practice to be able to be really, really precise. That's the whole point of they've got whole teams down there navigating where they're going to shoot it. Suzuki, hey, I'm an idiot, so you can totally laugh at me. But I seriously wonder, like, what the heck is a training torpedo? Does it wear diapers? All right, and then
a lot of guys in chat said they called them deadheads.
So does it just have? So it is a torpedo, but it just has a different. It doesn't have a bomb at the tip of it, huh? Well, either way, they were doing it right here. If you look, you've got Finland, you've got Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, you've got Sweden, you've got Germany and Poland right here, Denmark. Denmark's again, but they have it right here. This is where they were doing this. And this is just a few days after they ended up popping up right between Ireland and the UK, right here. So they're definitely being very active right now. So we'll follow it and we'll let you guys know. And then South Korea resumes artillery drills near border with North after 6-year pause. Dex.
Okay, well, the headline kind of says it all, but let's look at what has been amping up and escalating there at the border in the DMZ. We've got North Korea coming in and clearing out land. We've got them building new fortifications. We have them coming into the DMZ and even losing life there because of their soldiers are stepping on old mines that whole area is littered with mines. And there's even suspect that they're putting new ones in. So the North has been doing a lot to get prepared for a conflict. Well, given the balloons coming over with, poopy pants in them and the leaflets going back and the loud music going back, everything is just escalating back and forth on both sides. Well, now South Korea is saying, hey, we're going to start holding our live fire artillery practices, and we're going to do them right next to the border, right there near it. And it'll be the first time they've done it in 6 years. I guess they used to do it, obviously, as a sign of strength. And now they're bringing it back because obviously things are not de-escalating, they're escalating.
Yeah, and you can bet within 24 hours, tomorrow we're going to be covering, or I guess we may actually be covering their response. So North Korea is going to say it's a provocative and reckless approach. Dex, we should have a bingo card for what North Korea's responses will be to actions. And they always have to have, like, this is a reckless and provocative approach and insane and, the list of words they use for when they respond.
Well, and they'll call it aggression. And then we'll see Russia, who has a new pact with them that says they're supposed to respond if there's any aggression. Then Russia will come in and say, well, we're going to run a nuke drill on the border there, just like we did in UKR. That will be really surprising to see.
Well, hopefully it doesn't. But at some point, I think North Korea and South Korea are going to go at it. Russia's going to back up North Korea. The U.S. and other allies are going to back up South Korea.
Well, seriously, though, think about it. Like, we'll fly a nuclear-capable plane as a drill in South Korea as a deterrence against them. We'll pop a nuclear sub up out of the water and port it there in South Korea as a deterrence to North Korea. So we're doing that in support of South Korea. What will Putin do in like kind to us? Will we see him do something, or is it just a piece of paper and a handshake and a smile, and I'm sending my kids off to summer camp in North Korea? Like, I really think he's going to have to do something, because we do it all. We've been doing it all. We've been shaking the stick, so to speak, quite a bit at Kim, and he shakes it back by himself. But I'm curious now that he's got this pact, if Putin will actually do what the U.S. does for the South Korea, if he'll do for North Korea.
And if you don't know what pact Dex is talking about, we covered it a few weeks ago, where they've signed a pact now where Russia will, in the case of aggression, if anybody attacks North Korea, they will back them up. The same goes vice versa. If anything happens to Russia, North Korea will join, which makes me wonder, if they're attacking sites inside of Russia, does that give them the right to call on North Korea to say, hey, send your guys into into the fight with Ukraine, because I don't think North Korea cares about the politics. They're just going to make sure they hold up their end of the deal. So we'll see. And then Saren, thank you. Jen, I appreciate that. Just want to say thank you for all these years of sharing the truth. You should watch Andrew Womack. He teaches us who we are in Christ. Did you know healing is a part of the atonement? By his stripes we are healed. Just say thank you and believe. Jen, thank you. And I don't think I've heard of Andrew Womack, but I will check him out. And thank you so much for the support. Thank you for supporting Independent. All of these years, you guys have stuck by me. So thank you. Through thick and thin, through nasty and not, you guys have been here. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. The Fugel fam's, I don't know, it's kind of, it's ebbed and flowed, but we still have these, like, you still have people that have been here for 5-6 years. It's really, really, I think it's really unique. I don't think that that's very common. So thank you. And even though people do leave for a few months or they'll leave for a year, they end up coming back. Sometimes it will be during tumultuous times. They'll come back to see, what our take on it is. But I appreciate that everybody comes back. And China issues danger zone warning in waters near Taiwan. I'm sure that there's going to be folks that are coming out and saying, like, this is a really bad emergency. It's going to happen in the next couple days. One thing that we always try to do is with this kind of thing is you do got to be aware that anytime they do these kind of things, like, so say a couple years ago, Taiwan, there was some sort of thing where they had to get permission to put mines out in the physical water. When you see them placing mines, that's usually, you would think, like right before something happens. So in that instance, I said, well, there's a chance that maybe they know something that we don't. It could have popped up. And I didn't even suggest that, but I said, this is the kind of times you watch for, right? But I guess I was wrong about that. I guess they place mines and they'll leave them for years and they'll communicate where they are to their people. But when you see certain things happen, you think, oh, this is right before something big will go down. I don't know if that's the case with this, but they, of course, have done this one other time just in the last month that we talked about. And they basically do it because they're doing a drill, right? Well, it always makes you wonder if something is going to happen that's bigger than a drill. Chinese military aircraft and vessels continue their daily operations around Taiwan. China issued a no-sail zone warning in waters near the self-ruled island on Tuesday, in the latest show of force by Beijing amid tensions. Maritime Safety Administration China Eastern Zhejiang province issued a navigational warning for a military exercise in the East China Sea. So when I think, and here's my thing, because they've been starting doing this a lot more, I think that the pattern shows that they're going to continue to do this, and they're going to do more no-sail zones, and they're going to pick up, do a lot more to where it's normalized. And then when this all does go down, they're going to say it's a drill, and the real thing, they'll pop off. Dex, have you noticed that? They're starting to do these no-sail drills. Do you think that they're going to do more?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is we're kind of getting the preview. This is the preview to the drill. This isn't necessarily an announced drill. We'll probably hear about the drill in the coming days. We may or may not. It just depends on how much potential, threat there was from the drill or how sizable it is. They did say 22 aircraft and 6 vessels were around Taiwan on Wednesday. But, look, this is so they put this pre-announcement out and it got picked up and people learned about it. And we were able to find out, hey, they're doing something in advance. Usually we find out either in the midst of it or at the end of it, they just did this or they just completed this. And so I kind of look at it as a preview. But yeah, it's been happening a lot more. The drills, certainly, the encircling the island has happened numerous times now. The crossing the median line, which is that halfway point between mainland China and Taiwan. They used to never do it. Now they do it all the time. They've normalized it.
They also never give warning. They never give warning for their drills, ever. But they just started doing that. That's what gets me. They're telling people don't sail in this area because we're doing a drill. So these must be some like live. I mean, even other ones that they did that were live fire drills where they're shooting artillery into the water and stuff. They never warned anybody about it. They don't ask for permission. They don't even ask for forgiveness afterwards. They just do what they do. So it makes me think that there's a purpose for them. They're going to continue to do this. That's why I think that they're going to keep doing it. And then these drills, why are they warning? I don't know. So that others won't get alarmed when they have this massive force there. And then what if this isn't the drill? What if this is the drill, and then the next time they do it, they do the exact same technique, but that time's the real time, but everybody's at ease and nobody really expects it coming because they think they're just doing another drill. That's what I think they're doing the flyovers when they've took 22 planes, 32 planes, 72 planes in a 24-hour period flying over. It's like now they're so used to it that they don't blink an eye. And that's what Dex meant by normalized. Like they've made it to where nobody blinks an eyelash when they fly over the median line. They push it a little bit farther every day. And then one of these days they're going to be super, super close with a drill, and one of those planes won't turn around. And it will just bomb the communications, or they'll have at the same time a boat go by and cut the cables, and all of a sudden you'll have some sort of electromagnetic attack or jam or something or other happen, and then boom, they take it over in less than 30 minutes. But I don't think that happens without coordinating with the rest of the world and all of this other stuff going on at the same time. That's what gets me. Is I think this is all going to be at the same time as the big one. And then 9 Ukrainian jets destroyed in 24 hours. So in less than a day, they had 9 Ukrainian jets destroyed. Again, the Kremlin has continued to signal to the West that the dozens of U.S. F-16 fighter jets currently being prepped to transfer to Ukraine are as good as dead on arrival. Past weeks of media reports that have indicated that a handful of European countries will begin sending F-16s by some point this summer. Russia's defense ministry said Tuesday it launched a major attack on an airfield in central Ukraine, which destroyed and damaged 7 Ukrainian fighter jets. The location was identified as the Myrhorod Air Base in the country's Poltava region. 2 or more reported shot down in a separate operation. As a result of the Russia's army strike, 5 active Su-27 multi-purpose fighters were destroyed and 2 were under repair or damaged. The statement was accompanied by aerial footage, and the whole attack was confirmed by a Ukrainian official who described that the strike happened. But the extent of destruction was exaggerated by the Russian side. It says there are losses, but not at all like the enemy claims, because they always do this since the beginning of the invasion. So, well, obviously they need more jets, so I wonder if they're going to bring a huge UKR flag to our Congress and say, hey, look, we lost all of our jets. Can you send some more? I don't know, man. It's like
mark them out in the open so we can get them taken out so we can get some new ones, right?
All of our money just going down the drain. I don't know if we gave them these ones, though. These are the Su-27s. So these are the older Russian-made jets, right?
Yeah, correct. But, the more they lose, the more they need the F-16s. So that's at least their narrative.
So the military-industrial complex is buzzing with enjoyment. Somebody somewhere is clacking a champagne when this happens. What is it when every time you hear a bell ring? A Ukrainian fighter jet gets made, right? Or the military industrial complex is producing a missile. I think that's how it goes. It's an old Jimmy Stewart movie. Every time a bell rings, a taxpayer gets... Oh, that's a swear word. Yeah, I don't know how that one goes. I forgot. Before we move on, make sure to go check out My Patriot Supply. Over the 4th of July, even talking to my neighbors, a lot of the people around me, I'm surprised at the people that are getting prepped right now. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this as well, but isn't it kind of funny when you find out somebody you never expected was a prepper is a prepper? Again, I think more people, even the critics, are prepping more than they're letting on right now. But if you haven't already, obviously it's hard for everybody right now. Go check out My Patriot Supply, because if you want an affordable big batch of freeze-dried food, again, something that's pre-packaged that you don't have to think about, you just add water or cook in water and it brings it back to life and it lasts 25 plus years, then this is the go-to. Not only that, the reason why we have picked this as one of the companies we represent is because it is super affordable. Now, there's actually other companies that we suggest for different kinds of things. If you want nutrient packed, you want this, you want that. There are actually 3 or 4 companies that all have their own niche. The one thing I love about this is how well and easy it is to store. You can get a 3-month supply for an amazing price. I would go bulk on something like this. You can start out small, though. You can get a 72-hour kit, all that, but you get the most bang for your buck. Just like as if you go get 10 boxes of cereal in a pack at Costco, it's a lot cheaper than as if you bought 1 or 2 separately. So this is a really great deal. This food will be good until 2053. So imagine where food prices will be there then. Imagine food prices in 5 years, and then imagine freeze-dried food prices. Because freeze-dried food is more expensive than regular food because of the process. It has to actually go through the whole process, then get packaged. So I would definitely recommend getting this yesterday rather than tomorrow. It's very, very efficiently stored as well, because it basically takes out all of the moisture, everything out of it, seals it down to a very small package, and then you can basically revert it back to its original status with water or sauce. It's very easy. Marfooglenews.com/prep. You don't need a code. It's automatically applied when you do that. And Dex, I did a video over on news, but do you want to give your opinion on the Russia holds mobile nuclear missile launcher drills days before the NATO summit?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, go check out that video. Share it with your friends and family. It's really important because it's bite-sized, shareable. It's a good introductory type video. Don't scare them with an hour and a half, but then bring them along for the hour and a half, because it's great, because you know what it is. You're here. You're all the way at the end or near the end, and you've made it this long. You know how much great information we pack into the show. But look, Russia is taking mobile nuclear missile launchers, and they're bringing them to the front line, and they're doing it to the front line in southern Russia near UKR. This is a drill they're running. It's very similar to the drill they did with Belarus, that they also went to the southern line when they moved the tacticals. These are large ones. Now these mobile ones are small. They're designed to be rolled in or driven in and then put in an area and covered with camouflage so they can't be seen, and to lay in hiding. Now, as we know, they've always used drills to move equipment. We do it too. They were well known for doing it even at the launch of UKR. They brought all the equipment in, called it a drill, went home, came back a year later, all the equipment was there, boom, they rolled into UKR. So this is, yet again, as much as they're calling it a sign of strength against NATO right before the meeting, that's part of it. But there's something else here that we need to pay attention to. It's moving some of this equipment, and it's potentially even leaving it in place and leaving it in hiding in place to be used. So pay attention, folks.
Yeah, think about what they did with Ukraine the first time when they put 160,000 troops on the border and then left. And right as people started getting concerned, they said, just kidding, it was a drill. They left. The soldiers left. They went back home. They went to their barracks. The gear, the artillery, the mobile hospitals, the tanks, all the stuff that they moved up to the line, it stayed. So what does that mean, right? Well, a year later, we found out. And that a year before the invasion, I said that was practice, and the next time is not going to be a practice. The next time it wasn't. We all saw that. A lot of us in this community, we knew that drill was practice for the actual invasion. And who knows, maybe it did depend on what happened with the whole NATO thing, and if they said they wouldn't join NATO. Well, now they're in Ukraine, and they're definitely there, and it's definitely happening. With this, now they're moving this stuff into place. They could leave it there. They could hide it so well that You can't see it from satellite. That's the whole point of this. They have special covers for these things, but they also have special structures now. They can put up these crazy, crazy structures, and I've seen this. Some of these can fold out, and they are a box structure that can go over any shaped object, but then the outside actually folds out, and it looks like a Teletubby hill. This is really cool, and honestly, we've covered a lot of weird military, like, decoy things, like the inflatable tanks that Russia has, and we do too. They actually put off a signal as if it's a real tank, but it's an inflatable. The cool, crazy thing is they've invented these things that are massive that can be folded out on site and cover with a grass hill. So from the satellite, or even if you get relatively close, you'll look and you'll say, oh, it's just a grass hill. It's a little lump hill. And it will look like that. In reality, it could be a nuclear mobile launcher. It could be a Yars system, and you wouldn't even know it. From satellite, if you can hide it on the ground, then you can definitely hide it from satellite. Now, they may be able to look at the satellite pictures and go, wait, the ground changed, and who knows what AI can do now. They did say that now if a leaf moves, that they'll be able to tell. So I don't know what they've come up against that to make it look like it wasn't there. But again, I wonder if they're putting them there and they're going to hide them there. If you want to share that short video out, make sure to go over and check it out. Again, it is a very short video, and you can share it with your friends and family. Just click right here. If you want to join us for the shoutro, then make sure to over on Marfoogle Jams, or just stay in the chat. Again, thank you, D-Live, Bugnana, Shugs, Badger, Poco Loco, of course, Chance. Thank you for modding, Kimbria, and of course, Scooby-Doo-Doo, right? I hope you're doing well. And everyone else, thank you. Have a wonderful day. I hope all of you had a beautiful 4th of July. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Thank you so much, Dex, everything you do.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro.